Hello everyone.
Hi Shashank, how are you?
Hi Sheikh. Good to catch up, my man.
Yeah,
Hello,
man,
Atul,
okay.
sir.
Hi Shashank, how are you?
All good, sir. All good. Hi Ganesh. Hi Sandeep.
Hi, Shashank.
Quite some Jai Bhatia.
Hi Shashank.
Hi.
हाय शशांक जी कैसे हैं?
All good. All good. Good to connect with you. So what we'll do that without wasting time, I think people will keep on coming. So we'll get started. So idea behind this session was that we know that lots of things are happening in the digital payment space, especially a pandemic. Also, we have seen that how the digital payments has grown, the adoption has grown, and lots of more things are happening. So if we look at it, what are the critical things are going to shape up the digital payments in the next future? And how gonna the impact will be across that digital payments. That's really was the objective to look into that deep dive into this area. So what we'll do that we'll just get started and then we'll come back as a typical process to us. We'll come back for the question and answer. And some of you might have already attended some of our sessions earlier, so you may find it some portion may be repeated, but we just try to collect more from the digital payments perspective that what's things are happening. So I'll just yeah. So just quick, without taking much of time, many of you know about us, but those who don't know that we are a small fintech and digital consulting startup, primarily operating into four space, if you exactly call it up. So consultings where we work with the banks, fintechs, startups, helping them into the business go-to-market strategy, digital strategy, technology, and all the other aspects. Then we work in the partnership where we help the startup or the technology service provider for the go-to-market approach, and the trainings that we do, lots of the trainings, and primarily the experience that we bring in the developers, the experience at the BFSI and on the digital and the technology. So that's these three areas that we talk about it. This is just a snapshot of the customers base that we have been lucky to work with them in consulting, the partnership, and some of the trainings space. Just brief bits on the training. We also have coming the digital payments one-day programs, very extensive, primarily designed to look into the different aspect of the digital training, like what are the digital payments, what are the ecosystems involved into that, and then what are the different payment systems in India, just trying to get deeper into that UPI and their business models. And then try to look at the various payment-based business model like payment gateway, the POS, wallet, payment as a service platforms, and also try to pick into that innovations, as well as try to look into that some crypto payments and then and the CBDCs, and some of the external speakers we have aligned for that. So that's just brief into. Now let's come back to the topic. So what are we going to talk about? So we look at that how the digital payments is shaping in India in the last couple of months, primarily most post after the COVID. And what are the new trends are coming into, especially like new NUE? Everybody is talking about new umbrella entity, to what it is and what it will have and a kind of impact on the digital payments industry. And once we looked at it, then we also try to look at that how it's going to shape the future. Many of you know that how the Indian payment ecosystem has scaled, but just try to bring it some snippets around that. So if you look at the ATM network, so around that 5 ATM networks in country, and primarily that NPCI driven NFS is the largest one, which drives that most of that ATM network in India. While on the card payment networks, we also have the Visa, Master, NPCI, the RuPay, American Express, and all these things. Then on the financial market infrastructure, you have the CCI, Clearing Corporation of India, and the NPCI. Then we have 9 players already operating in the cross-border money transfer, if you look at it in India, including the MoneyGram, Western Union. Prepaid payment instruments, surprisingly, almost 38 participants operating in this space. And then white label ATM operators, Bharat Bill Payment Central Unit, which was now formed as an independent subsidiary of NPCI as NPCI Bharat Bill Pay Limited. Now, these are the kind of ecosystem exists, and then you have the players like, say, for example, payment gateway, the credit card providers, and all these things. In those all space, you can see that it's already crowded, but still we are talking about having an NUE, because still India sees a huge scope into expansion of the digital payments. So look at just if you look at the graph, how it has been growing in the digital payments, especially on the retail side of it. If you look at it in the orange bar, this is like overall the volumes, including that payment systems, which is driven by the RBI in form of NEFT and RTGS. Okay, then blue line is primarily the whole of the payments volume, which has been run by the NPCI. So all the payments platforms which have been operated by NPCI, be it UPI, IMPS, AEPS, all this put together. You can see it's almost like 80% of the volumes in terms of the numbers has been primarily driven through the NPCI platforms. So that's a huge number. And although you see the transition that how it's shaping up, like CTS check clearing, which was almost 5% of the volume in 2018. Now it has been come down to 1.5%. And we all know that many of you might not be using the checks other than one or two for the other reasons. So that's where that. While on the UPI side, if you look at the volume, it's extraordinarily going into the next level. Like it was 2018, almost 22%. And in 2021, when you're talking about it, it's almost hitting on the 50%. So it shows that how the digital payments are expanding into the country. Now the scenario changes when you start looking into the terms of the value, because the value that primarily the NEFT and RTGS, which is a large ticket transactions, which is more than 2 lakhs kind of the transaction. That's why the value and the look at the NPCI based on transaction like UPI, IMPS, you see the lower side of the number. So that's only the major difference between that. So you look at the CTS is still here also you can see the value it's changing. Now still the check clearing, you know that most of the check clearing will have the larger ticket items, especially the corporate side of the check payments clear. So CTS like almost 22%, while on the UPI the volume also is increasing in terms of the value. So if you look at 2%, almost 10% of the value is being has gone to that. One of the very interesting fact, if you look at it, where like almost 160 million people are doing the digital payment transaction in India. Looking at the population, still it's not maybe very high, almost like not more than 20% also. There's still a huge volume, a huge scope for the expansion. But if you look at the other side, like which are the guys who receive the payments, it's almost 600 million. It means that the guy who are able to receiving the payment digitally may have the potential to start doing the transactions also the digitally. So that's a space that's primarily the future will look into that. So as we say, like almost while on the other side, if you look at it, almost like 390 million active internet users. Still, that from that perspective, also you try to compare that almost only 160 million, less than 40% around population doing the transaction. So here also its scope, it says that it has a huge scope for the digital payment. So now that's primarily the in terms of the value and the numbers. This is another just a graph in terms of the value when you start volume. When you start looking, the UPI is extraordinarily very high. While when you just look at it in the terms of the value, that's completely changes where the CTS and the other ATM transactions and all this thing will be much on the higher side. Now let's look at that. What's major pieces? There are lots more things are happening, but we just try to restrict to a couple of areas where we just wanted to focus on this discussion. One is the major one is the NUE. Now you know that RBI has already floated that circular for people to apply for the NUE license, new umbrella entity. Application has already been submitted. Now the RBI is in the process of scrutiny. Maybe in the 6 months down the line, that announcement will happen on the new NUEs kind of thing. Then also the innovations. Now, on the one side, if you look at it in the payments that you had seen the innovation like UPI, AEPS and all the other things. But tokenizations has also given a huge boon to the innovations in terms of that enabling the credit card based of the transactions. And especially when you are going to see that there are big spot in the Internet of Things and the wearables and all these things which can enable the payments using the tokenization. So we'll see just a bit of that. So tokenization is also expected to have a huge push on the digital payments by plugging those tokenization mechanism for the payments in all the IoT or the wearable kind of devices. Then also we see that lots of emergence of the platform as a service players, because these guys are trying to become a kind of a rail which allows that anybody to plug in, play, and start the payment services. So that's also is going to be on a major role. Yes, we all been hearing, reading, and all the news on the if and buts about that whether the cryptocurrency is going to allowed, not allowed. That's all things will make the tussle will be there for the couple of years, but we know that this is reality. It's going to happen. So cryptocurrency payments and the CBDC, central bank digital currency, is also a reality. And that we see lots of payment-led business models. So we just shortly we look into that one of the each, that how this, what are these things. So new umbrella entity, as we have seen that the NPCI is almost been the critical key component to the whole of the ecosystem, driving that 80% of the volume of the digital payments transaction. Keeping in mind that government and the RBI may thought that it may have a space for the another new umbrella entity to drive a new set of the payment model. So that's where that it has been floated, primarily as a circular that any consortium or any other institution can apply and can set up a complete new digital payments infrastructure with launching a new payment method, not limited to the ATMs or only on the cards, but across the space in the retail payments, including the Aadhaar-based payments or the offline payments and all these things. So that's where, and the focus is primarily to how to push larger population of the country to start adopting in the digital payment. So NU is going to be a very critical component when we see that NU come into the existence. They are expected to bring in the new digital payments methods in the country. Now it will have an impact across the board, that you will have an impact on the banks, you will have an impact on the RBI, you will have the impact on the fintechs and the startups, because right now if you look at all the payment method which has come from the NPCI, fintechs and startups has started working and build new model like PhonePe and all this thing has come up. So we'll see those kind of a evolution when it comes into the NU based payments infrastructures comes into the place. These are all the consortium that you might have already seen and heard that which has applied for the license for the NUE in a country which is primarily driven through the Tata, Reliance, Paytm, all the big guys in strike. And that itself shows that what is the deep potential of the digital payments in India, both from the payment infrastructure and the data infrastructure point of view. So that's a big play to happen. So NUE will definitely have a major play when you're going to look into the future of the digital payments in India. Now look at the cryptocurrency. We all know that cryptocurrencies are there. Every different form of the cryptocurrency, be it you look at the Bitcoin or Ethereum or XRP by the Ripple. Many of the guys are there, that Dogecoin and all these things are there. Crypto exchanges are working, Bitcoin's values, the fluctuations and all these things. We are seeing that. We also started seeing that many of the companies have started at least making an announcement, or they have already started accepting the payments. So that's there. It's gonna be there. People are accepting, and the valuation itself shows that we can't be moving away from this infrastructure. It is there. It has its own potential. If you look at it, some big marquee names have started accepting the payments of the Bitcoin, like Microsoft. Microsoft has already said that for the purchase of the various software, like be it Xbox or some of the other products from the Microsoft, they will accept the payments. Tesla has already made that case, okay, they will accept the payments. Now it's another matter that Elon Musk's statements keeps the Bitcoins very nervy on the exchanges. That's a separate story. Now on the BMW also, they have also, at least not as a corporate that they've made announcement, but some of the dealership in the BMW dealership in England and Canada has started accepting the payments for the car purchase. PayPal has already made an announcement quite some time back that they will start accepting and allowing people to store, save, and invest in the Bitcoin on their PayPal platforms. And the similarly Square, the JP Morgan, some of the banks, if you look at the JP Morgan and the Goldman Sachs, already started working into the accepting the Bitcoin payment. So that itself shows that the worlds are moving towards that direction, sir. How soon it will get streamlined, it may take its own sweet time, but I think it's moving in that direction. It's still very political, it's still very controversial, but I think it's we'll be seeing that loss for payment and the digital connects on the cryptocurrency sites. Okay, sorry. And also, I missed out on the CBDC. So if you look at it, the central bank based digital currency, most of the country has at least floated on the papers or at least taken the initiative to start working on the central bank backed digital currency. This will not be something very similar to the cryptocurrency, but it will be more like a digital version of the fiat currency, which is there, which may be in the different format to as a virtual money kind of a structure, which will allow people to trade digitally across that blockchain infrastructure, and it will be backed by the central board bank. And India, if you look at it, then the 2021 early RBI has already floated a paper that they are looking into that enabling the central bank of digital currency. And all more than the 50 banks across the globe has already in a different journey of that launching the CBDC. So we may see in the couple of years that central bank digital currency in there, it's working very closely with the fiat currency. And then also we may see that some of the cryptocurrency, some of the countries, it has been regulated and working very closely. Now tokenization. So as I was just talking about that, we have seen that all the innovations in the payment side of it. Tokenization is also one of the major innovations, not only in the payment space, but in the data communication space. But that has taken a big leap in terms of the payments-based digital payments innovation, especially if you look at it when the Apple Pay came. So what the tokenization does, how it becomes a really powerful tool when you are talking about the future generation of the digital payments. We have seen that primarily the banks have been using the credit card or any other infrastructure to do the payments and using the encryption mechanism to let the data flow, so card number flow. Now it was there and it's improved to the security to a certain extent, but it didn't improve, added to the different payments methods to be evolving. Tokenization helped into that premise. So what does the tokenization? That the tokenization is very simple way of converging, storing that card number and generating a very unique number for that card number and making people to use that new generated number instead of the 16-digit card number. So actually that somebody else, like primarily the token service provider, will store the payment uh, PAN number of the credit card and generate a new token, which is a new unique number will be generated and will be given as a token. Now, these token will be stored at either it can be stored in the card, either it can be stored in the phone, or it can be stored on any wearable device or any of the IoT devices. And whenever that you want to enable the payments, you just need to let the token move from that device through the NFC or the Bluetooth mechanism, which now also getting very prominent. The technology of NFC and the Bluetooth is increasing day by day. So that's adding more power to the tokenization. So very simple, like customer makes a purchase, the card number is extracted, card number is stored at the secure vault by the token service provider, a new number is generated, and then token is being used by the any future transactions. So why is becoming a powerful? Because now this token can, the major risk that credit card is storing the credit card or the debit card has been the risk of the data stealing from wherever the data gets stored. If you can't steal that data because you are storing now the token, that risk goes away and then payments becomes more seamless. So that's where the power of the tokenization is coming. As we was talking about some of the benefits that we talk about the tokenization is like it allows that making that different format of the data which secure it's from the all this kind of the cyber attacks. Okay, you can just add the tokens and it can be very easily be in a safe mode of the transactions for all the kind of the recurring payments or the subscription based payments if you look at it. Then token is primarily like completely unreadable. Even if somebody able to extract of the token, he can't make it out. What this can be do? Like in the credit card number or the encrypted credit card number, even if it has been stolen, if you're able to get hold of the logic that way the encryption has been done, still the chances are that you may extract the card number. But here in this case, because token, even if you extract, you can't make out anything of it. The major part is that when you look at that whole the credit card transaction, when it happens from the merchant to the swiping at the machine or the internet payment gateway, then it moves to the acquirer bank and then to the issuer, the network and the issuers and the payments happen. many of the cases you would have seen that the merchants or maybe the acquirers storing the data. Now when the credit card data gets stored, the risk of the data stealing happen, and we have seen the case of the Air India or maybe the Domino's kind of the thing, recent incident that we have seen. Now just imagine that when the token moves from these touch points with the merchant or the acquirer, the chances of the data stealing goes away completely. So that's also the adding the whole of the power to the tokenization. Now, completely that card is in the control of the bank because the token service provider is completely managed by the bank. So the bank will have the power. Now, look at that. Apple Pay completely revolutionized the use of the token when they introduced the tokenization in that Apple Pay. So when you store the credit card number in the Apple Pay and using the token, Apple doesn't store the credit card neither on its phone nor on its any of the server. So entirely, it's make the completely foolproof to enable any kind of the transactions through the Apple Pay by using the tokenization. Now just imagine the same things you have in the wearable that rings that it comes, and they just put up the chip into that ring and put up the token inside that chip. And now when the ring is enabled through the NFC, any NFC reader would be able to extract the token from that ring and then allow the transaction to happen. That's where the power we're going to see into the future. As we already know, so that we will have the billions of internet of devices. It could be the connected cars, it could be the connected refrigerator, all the things we are talking about. And just imagine that by adding the tokenization layer into that, all these IoT devices, be it connected cars or be it on the connected refrigerator or anything, then it's gonna have that kind of a complete invisible payments from these of the devices. Yes, you will have the authentication mechanism, but that's where we see the future of the digital payments gonna happen. Very recently, you have seen that Axis Bank also launching a wear and pay kind of mechanisms where that again is a similar simple funda of that adding the tokenization on the similar chip kind of a device, and just you add to the any of the watch or any of the key rings and all this thing, and you make the payments happen. So tokenization definitely looks as a big, sorry, so there is some slide misalignment. So okay, now on the one hand that these are the some technology innovations will happen. Now the regulations also is trying to push on these areas, and which will have the definitely and a big repercussions on the way organizations are going to drive the innovations. So data localization is one major areas, and you would have seen that where the RBI in 2018 pushed that all the payment processors to start storing the data into the country. Okay, and recently they have penalized American Express and the Diners card to stop doing the transition because they have yet to fail to move the data into the India data centers. So that's where there recently the payment aggregator and payment gateways regulations was also tightened up, where that to start the business you need to have the authorization. Primarily, this all these things as to streamline the whole of the digital payments framework in the country. While on the other side, the regulations are coming. Government is also trying to push. You would have heard of the budget where the 15 crore push has been put on the digital payments, and the strong guidelines on the digital security, because security is always a central to the digital payments. Be it happen to the card, be it happen to the any of the methods like UPI and all these things, card payment security becomes whole of the critical. And more importantly, when you start seeing that the use of the payment data, be it in the forms of the new business models, be it on the BNPL or be it on the merchant cash advance and all these things, so where the data of the transactions are being used. So that's where also it becomes more critical to put on a framework where the data is properly is being used through the consent mechanism. And in a similar direction, we will see that personal data protection bill is also moving towards. Very interestingly, if you look at it, that RBI sandbox when it was launched and the first cohort which was released, it was also being emphasized on the digital payments. So the whole of the thought process was to bring more innovation in the digital payments, especially in the space of the offline payments. So India is still, though the bandwidth and internet connectivity is increasing, but still people have a struggle on the net or the people not having the smartphone. So how do you enable the kind of the payments through the feature phones or the offline payments? So that's where lots of more some of this cohort has been picked up in the first RBI sandbox to drive this kind of the payment. Like if you look at it, e-Rupaya is primarily NFC based prepaid cards. So how the prepaid card can be enabled and the NFC, the transactions, the cash based offline payments by the PaySe. which is more on the nucleus software. It is coming as like, then again NFC-based payment card, UPI-based offline, and other some sound-based data on the IVRs. Tontic is a very interesting company. It's there for quite some time, which allow that payments to move from your phone to the payment acceptance terminal through the sound wave. And that's a technology they want to extend on the UPI, which can be used where the network is not there. So lots more these, if you look at it, that all the use cases which have been there, primarily to push more on the financial inclusion side and improve that digital payments landscape. So regulation, lots more things happening. Uh, Last not but least, there are many, but one thing is we also feel that payment as a service platform, which is growing up, like be it on the YAP or be it on the QPS or the international Volento, Marketa kind of platforms which is there. What these guys have been doing, that they are making anybody to start the payment services from their platforms, be it on the you are an agritech, be it on you are any kind of the companies, you can plug and play with this kind of framework and start your payment business, and you can start providing the payment services to your customers. And these guys have been trying to bundle the every aspect of the digital payments which may require. So you will have the complete full payment stack, the customers on the one side and the banks on the other side. So what they do, that they connect with the banks and they will have that whole infrastructure put together and all the services bundled. And any fintechs or any startups come and plug in, play with them and start payment services. So look at that. So this is like one architecture that we just try to show. Don't worry about the complexity part of it, but just try to look at that in central component. This is like primarily the payment as a service platform. These are the guys like who bundle the technology and the services component and making anybody to allow the payment services. While on the back end, they will have the integration with the payment network like Visa or Master. They will have the integration with the bank where they will be connected to the core banking infrastructure. They will also be connecting to the switching platforms to manage that card transactions and via the networks. So they will have all the critical integration being taken care of place. While on the other side, they will bundle it the fraud management solution. They will have that services like reconciliation, provisioning, AML, KYC, all the kind of these things they will bundle into that. And then they will enable that anybody to start. Now to look at the advantage that they try to bring on the table. Like if you want to start any payment services of payment business, primarily you will have to bundle not into the technology and the integration interfaces, but also you will require to put on money into the like setting up that entire the onboarding process, the KYC, AML. You need to put in the controls and the solutions to manage the fraud, the reconciliation, the settlement, and everything. And that may take care of the like almost 8 to 10 months kind of the long gestation period to start the business itself. While this kind of the framework will be easy to plug and play and start your business in the just maybe 8 to 10 weeks or maybe the lesser. Okay, so that's where we see that, and we're going to see most of these past players, they're really growing. Like Yap in India, you might have seen that that's also been quite expanding internationally. Like through Galileo or Marketa has been also becoming $1 billion kind of the unicorns in that space. So what all? So it leads to. So we have seen that NUE is definitely is going to come into the future. So that's there. It's being accepted. Whether we'll have one NUE or we'll have two NUE, it will be up to the RBI, but it will come. Tokenization, we have seen the use cases. It will continue to grow because of the IoT is growing. People are accepting the tokenization. Banks are pushing into that money to adopt to the tokenization. Payment as a service platforms will continue to come, and the regulatory push will continue to happen. Crypto payments also, we have seen that crypto payments maybe not in the 1 year or 2 years, but maybe 3 years or 4 years, 5 years down the line, we'll definitely gonna see the crypto payments as a part of our lives. So that's if you try to summarize the whole of the things. So there is definitely going to be an opportunity to new payment systems. So NUE will definitely bring its own payment system. They are not going to have that like an incremental. So, okay, UPI has come or the AEPS has come. They will just try to polish and they will try to bring it on a new layer on that. It may not be, because RBI will be trying to look at that. They really bring it to the new innovative payment systems in the country. So NUE will bring in the new payment. Now it will have a challenge on the banking infrastructure, because banks will have to put in a new infrastructure to support on these things. And one of the critical component will be that interoperability between NUE and the NPCI infrastructure. So that's one leg that we need to see that how it's gonna operate. But these are the questions that time will answer, and the whole the ecosystem of the RBI and the NUA and the NPCI will solve it. But that definitely will give a push to the new payment system. And the crypto and CBDC, we definitely will have more of the new payment systems coming into that. As we are talking about the 5G growing up, 5G will push that data communication and the IoT technology and all the newer technologies, be it on the authentications. Authentication is growing up because authentication is always a critical component of any of the digital payments, right? Currently, methods of the OTP or the MPIN may not be sufficient, and it's not sufficient. We have seen on the different kind of the frauds originating because of these kind of the authentication. The authentication technologies are growing up, be it on the biometric based authentication like either face or the fingerprint or the any other retina scan kind of things. Also the behavioral based authentications, like how do you type your password, what speed that you operate on your laptop or your phone. So those are the various factors will be used to drive the new payment of authentication. So authentication technologies, all these things will keep on growing. And putting all these things will definitely will see that a lot more these payments get bundled into that devices and making it completely like invisible payments. So that's where like you want to anything done, let the tokenization move, tokens move, transactions get initiated, authentication happen through the face or maybe the biometrics, and the payments get executed. So those kind of mechanism we'll see more into the future. Definitely, the pandemic has given a push. The government is trying to push. People are adopting, getting more comfortable in doing the digital payments transactions. The merchants are becoming more comfortable into doing the transaction. We'll see that this space is growing in the next 3 to 4 years, where that like 160 million population is becoming to the 350 million of the population using the digital payments. So that's going to be the major push in that space will happen. And also, some of the areas that we have not seen more on the innovation, one is definitely offline payments. We have yet to see on a major remarkable innovations to come in that space, but I think that's one space is ready to come, and we'll see the more tractions coming into that space. Cross-border payments, now we have seen some of the innovations bringing it by the Instagram or the so-called NEOM, or by the wise TransferWise kind of the frameworks through the net settlement kind of mechanism for the cross border, but we have not largely seen more innovation. Yes, recent one by the Swift as a Swift GPI infrastructure to more efficient of the Swift payment transfer, but still we have not seen more innovation in the cross border. So we'll see lots more innovations coming into the cross border. It could be by the some of these NUE framework, or it could be by any of this RBI cohort that we'll see that. Collection side, yes, collection still has been always a major challenge when it comes to the customer payment collections, or it could be related to the loans or the other framework of the collections. So collections, we'll see that. Now UPI 2.0 tried to bring into mechanism of the recurring payment collections, but still it has to see the wider adoption. And it could be possible that we see more of the innovations coming into the collections. So you have the eNACH, now UPI 2.0 the feature has come, but we'll see more of that things happen in the collections. And the corporate payments. Corporate payments has been largely, if you look at it, being driven through the NEFT and RTGS. Because of the large ticket transactions, IMPS and the UPI may not be able to support this kind of the transaction where that large amount of the larger than 5 lakhs or the 10 lakhs of the money movement happens. Or it could be under the larger investment side where the people try to make an investment of 5 lakhs or the 10 lakhs. So those are the areas where we will see that some innovations taking place to support this large bulk of the transactions. Because one of the major concerns remain there that what if you allow the larger ticket transactions on this thing and the security has an issue, or the settlement has an issue. So that's where that we'll see more of the corporate payments. And as I was talking about that, more the cryptocurrency becomes an adoption, the regulations comes into the picture. We'll see a lot more of the transactions happening on the both of the imbalance of the fiat. We may see on a wallet where you can see your money in the crypto as well as on the fiat currency or the central bank digital currency, and you may interchangeably use those money to do the transactions. So we'll see a lot more data to use that and revenue monetizations. That's we have seen on the UPI data is being used the POS transactions data being used to allow you to do the BNPL and merchant cash advance kind of the transactions. We'll see more and more uses of the and where that people will try to push more of the services around this. And the account aggregator and data frameworks will definitely will have a more control around it, but definitely we'll see more of the data uses coming into that. And apart from that, we'll definitely have that open banking and embedded finance driving more on the digital payments, more business, new business model with the NUE coming into the picture. So these are some of the broader what we see that the changes might take place. It's just our interpretation by looking into that what's happening in the industry at this moment and what future may look into that. Now, it has been completely monologue from my side. I'll just open the discussion because I know that this topic is like, it's nothing right or wrong. It's all about that visualization. How do we visualize that in the future? So I see some other questions. So I'll stop the sessions at this moment. And we can just have a quick open question and answer. I can see some questions. Yeah. Yeah, go ahead. So Pratik had a question. I'm not sure Pratik is there around, but maybe I'll just read out his questions. So he's been primarily asking about what kind of offline payments innovation do we expect on the personal side, on the business side. So yeah, when we see that now, if you look at it, the USSD was there, which was primarily initiated as a kind of an offline payments. It is still there, but it couldn't be able to pick it up because it has that kind of a challenge of putting that numbers and the SMS format. Maybe we'll see an easier methods of the enabling that whole of the payment transactions, maybe riding on the SMS kind of an infrastructure, or maybe something else which will like do the transaction get initiated, authenticated offline or through the call mechanism. We don't know, but definitely we see on the personal side, and that may happen on the business side also with the some mechanism of offline QR code reader, as we have seen on the some of the thing Aadhaar and all this thing also, like you can do an offline QR read and all these things for Aadhaar. The similar kind of technology we may see on the offline QR where the merchant it can be done and the transaction can be enabled. So we definitely see it's very difficult to comment that what kind of payments, but in that space. Saraswati, Saurav, you had another questions. Saurav, you are there?
Good afternoon to you.
Hey, hi, Saurav.
Okay, so I had a question related to this. I mean, we hear the related to especially payment dispersal and collections with corporates and other businesses. So, are there some challenges and use cases that you have come across, or something that we know specifically exists?
Challenges we have not seen on the yet to right solution other than the eNACH and some portion of the UPI which is trying to solve into that. But challenges definitely has been there. Like how do you set up the recurring collection mechanism for the varied transactions, or the maybe like different frequency, like 1 day or 2 days, or the weekly collections or the monthly collections, the variable payment collections. So those are the challenges are there. There has not been a right or right solutions to address those kind of things. So collection definitely is one areas which is yet to look at the right solutions or the other flexible solution which can address the various kind of the collection issues. And that's why I was talking about that some of these NUE may try to work on those directions where that they try to solve some of these collection issues.
Right. I see. Right. Thank you.
Siddharth, so Siddharth has some comment to make. So I think Siddharth, we're happy if you can just talk about this any payments which you are doing with the MasterCard.
No. So we are not doing. I just read an article, Shashank. So I was just understanding if you have any, if you can throw some light. I'm not very sure about it, but I just want to understand: is it something really a big wave, or it's just like Another startup. I have not much read. I just heard that they have some partnership with Mastercard, so that's why.
I'm not sure about you're talking NEC or NFC.
No, no, NEC. There is some company in Qatar, NEC, not NEFC. NEC.
I'm not sure about which
Sure,
space
sure.
they are working about, what kind of tab they, but it could be
Yeah,
possible that they may be working on the tokenization side of it, but not
sure.
sure.
ठीक है,
These
sure.
all the network guys are trying to work on the tokenization space, and they're
Okay.
trying to push.
Sure, sure, sure. No problem.
Yeah, Sagar, you have a question. Sagar, you are there?
Yeah, I'm there. I'm facing some network issues, but yeah. So I was my question was regarding this introduction of CBDC. So
Yes.
as you mentioned, like when the UPI introduced PhonePe and all these organizations came into the picture. So what kind of businesses that we can expect out of when the CBDC will be there? Are there any use cases available in that? And the second was about I would like to understand more about this PaaS, like platform as a service in fintech. Are they any present in India?
Yeah, thanks, Sagar. So before I get into answer, I request everybody to give your feedback. Your feedback is always very important, and it has helped us to take those feedback and improve upon our sessions. So please, Mathri has put in that link. Mathri, can you put it at the link again back if you can put it and give feedback and those who all give the feedback, we make sure that you receive that the deck also, the training webinar deck that we have been doing. Now coming back to Sagar, your questions first on the CBDC. So CBDC, as we're primarily talking about, that's not going to be a cryptocurrency per se, but it will be more like a digital version of each of the fiat currencies. So maybe the regular sovereign currency which the country has, it will be more like digitized version of it. So everything will be given as a kind of the token. Now, primarily all the kind of the transaction that we see in the form of the tokenization and all this thing, there might be a mechanism that you allow that your digital tokens to move, which will be like all these currency will be in the form of the tokens. So you will have these tokens, the digital tokens moving to allow the transaction. Yet to be seen. The good part will be there that it will be backed by that RBI central bank infrastructure. So you will have a better monitoring. It may enable that complete reconciliation easy, settlement easy. So those are the things advantage it will have. But the use cases definitely who visualize that UPI will have that all the use cases which is currently we see today as of date. So definitely once the technology get matured, we will see more and more use cases. While on the PaaS, yeah, definitely in India has a couple of players in the market which is providing the complete payment as a service product, like YAP is there, the GPS is there. So there are a couple more guys are there who are having other platform as a service infrastructure in the country and providing that thing. So. Any other question, guys?
Yes, sir. Shashank, I have a question. Sandeep here.
Yes, Sandeep.
Yeah, I just wanted your views basically on the corporate kind of payments. Currently, the NPCI, the rails are developed mainly for the retail payments. So, and as a result, they are using mainly, the RTGS and NEFT kind of this thing. So what do you see the future? I mean, is it going to evolve? Because I think even corporate payment, how is the country kind of addressing this?
Yes, Sandeep, I highlighted that right now there's not much happening on the corporate. In fact, the NUE is also been which have been proposed. It has been proposed to look into the retail payments. Yeah, there's not been mention on the more on the corporate payments, and that's still a struggling area for the corporates to collect. But at least the sense digital payments moving into the and complexity involved into the B2B payments, we may see some sort of the kind of an innovation, or maybe by the NPC or any of the NEU may be pushed to bring some kind of a new payment method into the corporate payments. Right now, I don't see any kind of solutions in sight, but you understand and we understand that this is one area definitely looking for the solutions. And maybe in a couple of years, some solution, maybe initiative coming either by the RBI itself, maybe bring out some kind of mechanism to solve this B2B payment space.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, Shashank. This is Atal.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Hi. Shashank, I had two questions. One question was that you said there are 6 consortiums which are vying for this NUE license, right?
Yes.
But the chances are that the RBI may give permission only to 1 or 2 of them.
Yes.
So what do you expect will happen to the balance 3 or 4? I mean, because these are all consortiums formed by larger players who are pretty strong in this domain. So do you actually see them all coming together into 2 entities? Will that happen? Will they join hands?
May not be, because if you look at the kind of the mix of this consortium, it may not be in a kind of win-win situation for all these guys to come, and it may not be practically possible to run those kind of in a consortium. Yes, we may see some kind of the realignment among this whole of the structure, and maybe others guys will try to walk on the periphery side of it. Like, because anyway, when they will see that NEU is coming into the existence by whatever consortium bring into the paper, they will see that opportunity to work on this payment method, or may try to work it on some kind of an arrangement to act as because the payment ecosystem, you look at that, like, lots of components. You have the payment processor, the technology service provider, you will have that, you have the payment aggregators and all these things. So in that space, some of these guys may try to realign themselves and work in coordination with each other. May not be together, but in the more like in a partnership. Some kind of realignment we may see.
Okay, and do you expect the regulator over a period of time to start putting people into separate compartments? Like, you may be a payment processor, you may be a payment enabler. I mean, will there be those exclusivity that the RBI will insist upon, rather than the same person offering multiple solutions?
May not be. At least I don't see that kind of things happening. But one thing is for sure, that if you look at it, the last year the regulation which was come up, that you need to clearly identify yourself as a payment aggregator or the payment gateway. So when you apply for the authorization with the RBI, you need to come out very clearly that are you applying as a payment aggregator or the payment gateway or the technology service provider. So that's there. RBI is saying that. So now you may start with anything, or you may start with all the 2 components, like you may be technology service provider as well as a gateway. But you need to apply to the RBI and tell that I am applying in that space. So that's where earlier it was very open. Anybody could come and start that business. But now you have to apply for the authorization letter from the RBI that yes, you want to go into this set of the business, either as an aggregator or as an aggregator plus a gateway both. So that's clarification will be coming now. So even the existing players also has to go back to the RBI and seek the authorization letter from whatever the operations that they are into.
Correct. Understood. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. A couple of more questions. Archana, can a marketplace of fintech collect loan repayments from customer on behalf of bank? So anyway, there may not be the marketplace, Archana, but there are fintechs or the startups working in consortium with the banks and providing the collection services to the banks, or acting in the partnership with the banks. They're providing that services. And also, is the PG being used to collect? Yes, PG is being used as a payment collection mechanism. Like people are using as a sending as a payment link to the customer. And now you clicking on the link, payment customer can initiate a payment via the PG, either through the UPI or through the debit and credit card. So that's can be people are using the PG for the loan collection payment mechanism.
So Shashank, hi Archana. So
Hi.
one question there is, if PG is being used and there is a settlement TAT of T+1, so how is it treated, by the lender?
I'm not sure about that, how this entire the revenue exchange happened, because that whole of the MDR things will come into the picture.
Correct, yeah.
Right. So I don't know deep into that structure, but definitely there will be some mechanism. MDR will be coming, but people are using it. That for sure.
Yeah. Okay. So maybe they post the repayment, but actual money comes the next day. So that's
Yeah,
one of
there
the
will be.
sense.
And some PG must be earning. PG has to earn some in between that.
Exactly.
And
Yeah.
it could be possible that maybe places the customer may be adding an additional charge. They may charge and get additional amount from the customer, like 10 rupees or 15 rupees. But I've not seen that. But they've definitely a mechanism to earn something for the PG.
Okay. And in case fintech is collecting money on behalf of the bank, then you need to have a collection agreement. I mean, so there's a fintech who's actually a lead generator. And then later when they start collecting, obviously it's a different role. So one will have to get into collection agreement, right?
Absolutely. See, it's
Yeah.
all different. So if you look at it within the space, the lending space, and that's we keep on talking about that, fintech play on complete different roles at the different value chain. So either it could be only the lead generator, or it can play the complete digital fulfillment role. That it may also do the KYC, it may also do the underwriting. Now the underwriting decision completely will be the lender, while they may use the logic of the lender and also support the lender into the complete collection process.
Okay.
Based on that kind of the fulfillment role that they are playing, they may have a different earning mechanism with the lender.
Okay.
If we are only the lead mechanism, they will only get the commission as a lead. While if they start taking an additional responsibility and the risk, they also start earning as an interest portion. So larger payout it happens. So it's all dependent on what kind of the role that they are playing, and accordingly the contract will happen.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Thanks. Induraj, I think Indranus, you had some questions.
Yeah, Shashank, I had a few questions, like three of them specifically.
Okay.
First one is there has been a element of doubt whether payment gateways also come under the card detail storage norms, because I mean the card storage details norm specifically mentions payment aggregators as such, but they don't mention payment gateways in the series of guidelines when it comes into the clauses. So are both PA and PGs fall under the card storage norm, the recent card storage norms?
Yes, card storage you are talking about, they can't store the card numbers.
Yeah.
Yes, payment gateways also. That's why if you see many of the payment gateways are also coming that as an that they want to have that mechanism to store the card, because they allow the customer to save card transactions options, and which makes it easier, the faster customer transactions payout, and improve the customer experience.
Yeah.
And they say that if they don't store the card number, customer has to every time fill in the details, and then it will impact the customer experience. So yes, it's allow them to not allow them to store the card data, and that's where the tokenization may come as a solution, but that takes an effort to embed the entire tokenization into the payment gateway process.
Do you think other than tokenization, there's an alternative, like a regulatory alternative, or like from the business industry side alternative that can come into the picture other than the tokenization?
I'm not seeing.
Hi, Desh. Just a quick question. In our last conversation, we spoke about sub-merchant and merchant kind of setup. So what I need from you is what kind of documents would you need for sub-merchant? And T+1 is something, if you go ahead with, then what is the earliest time the next day you can make the payment? That is,
I think those are detailing. Archana, so maybe
cannot be first thing in the morning, 9 a.m. or 10 a.m.
Archana, you're talking to us.
Okay.
I'm not sure. Indranus, you can go ahead with your question.
Yeah, my second question was, I mean, from the cryptocurrency side, if I can go ahead. So, I mean, what do you see with the recent RBI circular coming out like day before yesterday, how do you see the way forward approach, like the future regulatory practices or the notifications coming out and the business operations? So what is your take on the whole, I mean, coming down the line in the coming few months? How do you see the whole thing?
See, I think if you go by the recent, what are the feelers which is coming from the RBI and all this thing also, and the government also, they said that they will relook into that guidelines. So I see that stance may be changing in the future. Immediate terms, I'm not sure. because the more and more the adoption start happening, the more and the more people started coming into that space of the crypto, it may be difficult for the regulators or the government to completely abandon it. It may not happen. Yes, it may start coming as a with more controlled regulations and all these things. How soon it will happen, it still is very difficult to answer, because we are not seeing that kind of any kind of feelers coming from the government or the RBI that okay, this is the time frame they are looking. Yes, once the CBDC comes, the CBDC adoption started happen, then they may start opening up and start working on it. But how soon it will happen, it's very difficult to comment. It's still a very touchy topic at this moment.
Yeah, of course. I mean, control regulations is what everyone is expecting down the line. Thirdly, and my last question, there's been a sort of a secrecy around the sixth consortium, like on the NUE, which is, I mean, led by iServU, I guess. So, I mean, can you share like the other industry players that are attached to the iServU? I mean, there has been only one name that is coming up.
No, I'm not sure because I shown it also. One is by FIS, which is more like there was a confusion whether FIS has been backed out or not, but FIS is still there. iServU, I'm not. I also have not heard about it yet because the sixth consortium, if you look at it, has been from the Tata, then one from the Reliance and Infibeam, which is there, and the one was the Paytm, and which is with Ola and IndusInd Bank. While Amazon and the Axis together and the FSS, and I think last one is the FIS. iServU, I'm not sure.
Okay, no.
So it may be really a secrecy attached to it.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you so much, Shashank.
Thank you. I think so. We have come to the end for sessions, and thank you all for taking out your time. Thank you, Matri. We have got the feedback. How many feedback that we got?
Yes, we have received 12.
Okay. Please, you have the feedback form. Request you to share your feedback and help us. And looking forward to connect you maybe and then next week. And we keep on announcing our webinars regularly at our LinkedIn channels and other Twitters and every instance. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, Shashank.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Bye.